my mic working? Seems to be. Hello, all. How's everybody doing? Give people a few minutes to pop on while I kind of get myself together here. Oh my goodness, I'm already together. Gary Wigeman says hiya. Hi, Gary. Yeah, I have a pretty specific. I have to work early tomorrow, so I'm probably not going to be on too long tonight. Just wanted to talk about a few things and maybe have a little discussion regarding Bobby Whitlock and some things that I'm working on for the future. By this weekend, if you saw my post earlier today, I will be producing a video about Bobby Whitlock. It's actually about more than halfway done, so I should have no problem getting it uploaded on Friday night, which is my favorite night to upload things on because then people have the whole weekend to watch it. Seems to make the videos do fairly well over that initial weekend. The Bobby Whitlock video is kind of in direct answer to a lot of the issues that people raised in my All Things Must Pass video. And I'm not going to lie, like I try to pretend that I'm this Beatles expert sometimes, and I did get a little lazy with not looking certain facts up. Like there was one thing in the video where I said that Ringo was on his honeymoon. I do know that at one point Ringo was on his honeymoon with Maureen at the time, but it wasn't that time. He was actually in the hospital. This is regarding the famous meeting that the Beatles had after Abbey Road was recorded, in which they were talking about possibly doing another album after Abbey Road. And it became kind of a big news story because Paul kind of shit on George's stuff. Said I didn't think anybody liked George's songs. And I think, in that era, Paul was definitely a bit of a Napoleon when it came to the band. I think he was comfortable with the way that whole setup was with the Beatles. He was totally fine with giving John half the limelight, but I don't think he was totally fine with giving George his amount of the limelight that he deserved. So personally, in my opinion, I think that was probably the biggest roadblock to the Beatles staying together. But let's not go down that road right now. Bobby Whitlock, that's what I wanted to talk about. So a lot of people, Bobby has a channel on YouTube, Bobby Whitlock and Coco Carmel. It's his wife, and it's a great channel. They kind of just sit around and, Bobby just talks about the old days. Usually there's a theme to each video. Sometimes they'll talk about Eric Clapton. Other times they'll talk about, All Things Must Pass. They'll talk about, different things. There's one video where he rolls out his Hammond organ and he's playing that for a while. It's really cool. But, he has a lot of very strong feelings about the All Things Must Pass sessions and certain people who did or didn't play on the sessions. And the problem is that so much was going on with the recording of this album that I don't think anybody truly knows everybody who played on the album. I don't. You have a producer who always wants more layers of things, right? So you have more musicians being brought in to do the show, to do the recording and everything, and it just gets more and more out of hand with each individual kind of layer that's put on this album. And even thinking back, the 30th anniversary, right before George's passing, he was working on it. And, he says that he put in the liner notes, he gave everyone credit. But I don't really think that even George really knows everybody who played on the album. I mean, you're talking about, drugs and alcohol being a thing. And, at that time, George was actually, I think, fairly clean because he was all into his Indian meditation, stuff like that. So he had a generally clean way of living at the time. But where was my train of thought? I just don't even think he knows. And Bobby, for his part, was there a whole lot, but he wasn't there all of it. And one of the biggest kind of log jams that we got into is the Peter Frampton thing. So I'm assuming at some point Bobby Whitlock said Peter Frampton did not play on the sessions. However, Peter Frampton has gone on record talking about how he played on the sessions. Now, here's where I think the problem is. So he did an appearance on Howard Stern many years ago, probably close to a decade ago, maybe. And he was talking about it, and they were showing pictures of Peter and George in the studio. And the problem is they were showing pictures from the recording of Doris Troy's first album, which I believe he also worked on. And the problem is that they were showing the wrong pictures for what Frampton was talking about at the time. Just because I don't think there are many pictures that exist of him and George during the All Things Must Pass sessions. So it became kind of this confusing thing that two different things were, like, one thing was being said, one thing was being shown, and the fans were they were just confused as to what was going on. Bobby, for his part, he played on many, many songs on All Things Must Pass. And however, what Frampton has repeatedly said is that what happened was after everything was recorded, literally Bobby probably thought the album was done. And he'd moved on with Derek and the Dominoes. They were fully recording the first album and Duane Allman and all that stuff, and they'd already gotten together. Okay. Phil Spector wanted more acoustic guitars because he's Phil Spector, and they brought in Peter, and apparently it was just Peter and George because George knew how good of a guitar player Peter Frampton was, and he just wanted him to come in and lay some more layers of acoustic guitars on top of what had already been done. So if you listen to My Sweet Lord, you listen to the intro, how many guitars are on that intro? Do you know? Do I know? Does anybody know? It sounds like 1,000. Okay? It sounds like so many acoustics playing at the same time. So I'm sure he's on it. Like, he's not going to remember. He's Peter Frampton. He's not some boob. He's not some like second-rate guy. I know that he didn't really have a good 80s, but Peter Frampton is a well-regarded guitar player who still makes probably a good amount of money just off the sales of Frampton Comes Alive. So he doesn't need to kind of raise his resume to, it's not necessary. So a lot of people came at me about the Peter Frampton thing. And I don't think they also understood quite what the spirit of the video was, which I'm going to try to explain right now. So what I tried to do in the video was give everyone relatively equal time in how I introduced them and gave them a little backstory about stuff that they'd done in the past and what happened to them in the future. Okay. So people were upset that I didn't mention Bobby more. But the thing was, Bobby was just one of many musicians that I needed to get into this video, that I was trying to make a video about the session musicians or whatever you want to call them, the guest musicians, the friends of George Harrison at the time. So I don't think people quite understood what I was going for. Not everybody, I'm sure. See, again, I have this strange problem of always focusing on the negative comments and not really thanking the overwhelming number of positive comments and the overwhelming number of likes that the video has gotten over the span of the few weeks that it's been up. And honestly, it's kind of, it's just been overwhelming the last several months of this channel being what it is and starting to really kind of take shape. But at any rate, just to finish the Bobby Whitlock thing, I am working on a video, as I said at the beginning of this. It's called Bobby Whitlock, In the Eye of the Storm, and it's going to be out on Friday night. I'm probably going to put it up at about 7 p.m. Eastern. So people will get all night and all Saturday and all Sunday to watch the video. Right now, it's clocking in at right around 19 minutes. And what it basically is just focusing on, there's a 2.5-year period in which it's just insanity how much Bobby Whitlock goes through between from the time that he was working for Stax Records and Delaney and Bonnie asked him to join the band to, opening for Blind Faith, George Harrison offering them a record deal, then asking them to play on All Things Must Pass, then Derek Nadamos, then it was just one thing after another, one recording into another thing. And it was just an amazing period in his life and an amazing period in music, because it's literally like being a fly on the wall, but, being in the band, with Eric Clapton, with George Harrison. And it's just an amazing story that he's able to weave through so many different moments in rock history. And he's an amazing guy. So I definitely wanted to give him his due, because, I did feel as though, and, it's a fair point when somebody says, this guy was on the record and he was an integral part of it and you didn't really spend a whole lot of time on him. Fair point. Here's a video for you, and I'm not saying it like I'm just trying to placate the haters, but I was legitimately interested in Bobby's story and, what he'd done. And I was very happy to do the video, and I thought it's coming out really good. It's not done yet, but it's coming out really good. So hopefully that kind of quiets down the Bobby Whitlock fan club, and he definitely deserves to have a fan club. The guy's sitting around right under 8,000 subscribers, and considering I'm approaching 26,000 subscribers, he should have way more subscribers. So anybody who's watching this, go check out Bobby Whitlock's channel. If you like guitar history, rock history, Eric Clapton, George Harrison, being all in there and everything. It's definitely, worth checking out his channel and giving him a subscription and some likes and letting his channel kind of get some more traffic because it's great stuff. It really is. So that's Bobby Whitlock. I do feel like I'm kind of mining the All Things Must Pass thing right now, but that's kind of the way I go sometimes in just my ebb and flow of how I operate. I like to be inspired by a story rather than just kind of feel like I have to make one. And I think that's kind of why I've been not avoiding the next Forgotten Fretmasters, but just trying to let it breathe for a little bit and work on some other stuff that's kind of interesting me right now, because, the All Things Must Pass was it's like, think of a nexus point and there's a million things. It's like a hurricane with all these little stories kind of swirling around it. And there's so much, there. And I think the Bobby Whitlock one will be my last one for a while on this particular subject, but there was just so much story there that I just wanted to kind of feel like I was done with it, at least for chapter 1. And I've already kind of gone over a lot of stuff with Eric Clapton and George Harrison and the Patty Boyd love triangle. If you have never seen it, basically way back about a year ago when I was first starting If Guitars Could Speak, there's a couple of very early episodes that I did about basically the Harrison Clapton love triangle. There's one video in particular called The Duel, in which there was a story in Patty Boyd, in her autobiography, but she was talking about this night that Eric came over to George's house, and kind of wordlessly, they were almost like two knights, and they were just battling on guitar for hours. And John Hurt, the actor John Hurt, who you may know from everything, Harry Potter, he was in Doctor Who, he was in Contact, he was in he's just been in a million things. He was there too, and he kind of agreed with Patty's assessment that this was a duel between the two of them, and they were trying to play for Patty's affection. And spoiler alert, even though it happened, 50 years ago, when Eric made the Layla album, he made it basically to try to win Patty over. And it didn't work. She ended up not leaving George for another few years. And that was the few years that probably were the worst in Eric's life. He refused to play. He was just deep in a heroin addiction. He was just in real, real bad shape. And it took many, many years to kind of get him out of that. And that was kind of like 461 Ocean Boulevard was like the comeback when he was kicking his habit and he was starting to clean himself up. And, he wanted to make a comeback to music and everything. So there's a lot of story there that I like to mine because I feel like it's not something that's really been told as much as, some of the other stories. So there's a lot of stuff there that you can view on my channel that I've already done. So definitely check that out. But also check out Bobby Whitlock's channel for sure. And, there's a lot of good stuff there. That video is going to be fun times. I think you guys are going to really like it. And then after the Bobby Whitlock, I promise we will do episode 10 of Forgotten Fretmasters. The only thing is I'm not 100% sure who it's going to be. So Alvin Lee has been kind of like the guy who was going to be episode 10. But again, like I said, I like to be inspired. And there was a guy that kind of entered my brain because, so here was my thought process. So no offense to anybody who might be watching right now, but a vast majority of my viewers are over the age of 55. Most of them are over 45, but even more of them are over 55. Okay. So I feel like I'm kind of getting a little hemmed into one time period in rock. And I wanted to try to branch out into, because I'm into, 80s rock just as much. I'm into, late 70s and things like that. So a guy kind of popped in my head that I was thinking about, and that's Steve Clark from Def Leppard. Steve Clark wrote some of the most kick-ass guitar riffs of the 1980s, bar none. The guy was a extremely talented guitar player. Not just could he play anything, classically trained, of course. He could play anything on the guitar, but he also was amazing at coming up with these little riffs that just made Def Leppard so much more, sorry, I got a call in the middle of the thing. I don't know, one of these. How many calls do you guys get to update your car warranty? That's probably what this is. Update your car warranty. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So Steve Clark is kind of like, I'm starting to formulate a plan to do a Forgotten Fretmasters about him. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to Alvin and just get him done in episode 10 and then do Steve Clark episode 11. But I do also want to, in the next round of Forgotten Fretmasters, throw a female artist in there. I have a couple in my mind that I want to do, and they're pretty old school, if you know what I mean. I mean, really old school. And I have, a bunch of other people that I've already had kind of, in the mix going forward. So, it should be fun. I would say, generally speaking, just from the output of the channel right now, it has slowed down a little bit. I'm generally trying to get a video up once every 2 weeks, but my initial hope was that I would try to get a video done at least once a week. But with the summertime, it just everybody, now obviously we spent a year locked inside the house. Okay. I worked, but my wife was in the house for an entire year. So obviously want to go down the shore, want to do day trips, want to go on vacations, want to do this, want to do that, take the kiddo out and things like that. So, I think that, it's just been, I basically do these videos as often as I can, and I don't really want to make excuses for it. I just want to do the best work that I can. And if it takes a while and it takes longer than I anticipate, then so be it, because I don't want to just put out crap. I actually filmed a whole video one night going through all of my gear. You can let me know if you're interested in that. But it wasn't good because, so you see how I live stream. I'm like stream of consciousness. I'm all over the place. And that's the problem. When I do videos that are not scripted, they tend to be kind of all over the place. So I like to I like to I like to script everything that I do, and just kind of go that way, because when I just, like I said, like what I'm doing right now, when I just riff off the top of my head, I'm just terrible and boring, and I go off on a lot of tangents, and it's just the way I am. It's the way my brain works. So it's always been the way I have been. But I do want to do a video about my gear collection. It's like not anything to sneeze at. It's a lot of Squires and Epiphones and one Fender, and but I've done a lot of upgrades to them. So if anybody's interested in upgrading equipment, they want to upgrade their guitars and things like that, I've actually started to get, I won't say good at it, but I'm starting to get more comfortable with it. Let's just say that. Yeah, so let's read some of these over here. A couple have been coming in. Topher, you're on all of them, aren't you? Thank you, sir. Forgotten Fretmasters was the lightning bolt idea. And I think if I end up becoming, YouTube famous for this channel, then I think that will be what I'm known for sure. Gary says that he's thanking me for putting together the vid for Bobby, and I'm sure many of my followers will be blown away at the short period of a young man. I was blown away. It's just amazing how much stuff he fit into that 2-year period. It was like insanity. That's why I called it In the Eye of the Storm, because it's like it was nonstop for this guy for 2 years. It was like just going from Memphis, Tennessee, flying over to Los Angeles, then all the way over to England, and back and forth. It's just like insane. Robert Phelps, yes, Mick Fleetwood was Eric Clapton's brother-in-law, and he was married to Jenny Boyd. And another thing that you'll find out in this Bobby Whitlock video, I don't want to give away too many little nuggets, is that Bobby actually went out with another sister of Patty Boyd named Paula. And so he was going out with Paula Boyd at the time that, George was still married to Patty. Eric was hopelessly in love with her. So he said he was in the middle of all of it with all of them, because they were all hanging out together and going out to dinner together. And it's just, how many Boyd sisters were there? Like, good Lord. Yeah, Gary pointed that out. Sorry, you beat me to it. Hey, Blues and G Music, what's up, man? Yeah, that's what I plan on doing. And when I started the Forgotten Fretmasters, I'm sorry, I didn't read it, but I usually like to read it for those who, I don't know if you can probably see the chat, but just in case, if you said it would be cool for me to learn about some of the guitars I know nothing about. Do what you want to do. Yeah, when I started the series, I definitely had a desire to, hang on, I'm going to kill a fly on, just land, man. Come on, I only got one light in here on. Just land on the light. Good Lord. That's what I do. Kill bugs. What was I saying? Yeah. That's what I'm saying about these videos is like, I like to be inspired by the video and not, I don't like to, YouTube, quick aside, YouTube likes to recommend that when I do a video that is successful, I should do more videos about the same subject. And I'm like, how many can you do? The whole point of my existence on YouTube, to me, is I try to do the stories that nobody else is telling, right? So when you can go on, you can find 100 videos about All Things Must Pass. You could find videos unboxing the album. You can find videos with track-by-track breakdowns of, what the songs are about, things like that, what George was going through, the recording of it. But how many videos are you going to find that are about the people who played on it? I went and I specifically sought out the one thing that I felt as though people weren't going to tell, and I told it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Phillies are not exactly. This is going away, by the way, soon. I have a surprise coming. I got a flag made with the Guitar Historian logo on it, so we'll see how it comes out. Hopefully, it's not like crappy, because they got to blow a picture up to the sides of a flag, and I'm kind of wondering what it's going to look like. But at any rate, yeah, I try to do my own thing at least 80% of the time. There are going to be times where, I do a video that I don't want to call it pandering, but, a lot of the Forgotten Fretmasters, when I did the Mick Ronson video, which was the first Forgotten Fretmasters video, I did at the end ask for people to, give me some recommendations, because, there's people from around the world, like Rory Gallagher. I didn't know that much about Rory before I did the Forgotten Fretmasters on him, and now he's on every one of my playlists that I drive home from work and go out and do the gardening, and if I'm going out for my power walks and stuff like that, I'm doing Rory is in my playlist. Him, Bill Nelson is now, guys that I never thought would I never even really knew who they were until people started to recommend them. But the thing is, a lot of people have been recommended to me, right? And if you go back on any of the comment sections on all the videos, you'll see tons and tons of recommendations. Obviously, I can't do them all, but not all of them speak to me. Not all of them even have a story that really resonates and can fill, because, like, let's say, Alvin Lee. Alvin Lee is a good example because he doesn't have that much in his backstory other than being a great guitar player. And even though that sounds like cold or whatever, but if you think about it, like what are people drawn to, right? When you're watching a video, and especially since I can't play the recorded music because of copyright reasons, you need a story. You need a story to tell. And I'm not saying like Alvin Lee has no story at all, but it's not a lot. Like 10 Years After was never really, he was around for a long time. He didn't really have too much going on by way of controversy or anything like that. And so it would just kind of be about his guitar playing, which I can't even really show off. So you have to understand, from my perspective as a storyteller, I have to work with what I have. So in a lot of ways, the story to me is more important than the guitar playing, even though the guitar playing is what gets our foot in the door here on this channel. Does that make sense? So that's kind of like my little spiel about that. Gary says, please cover Gary Moore. Gary Moore will be a Forgotten Fretmaster in the next 10. So basically between 11 and 20, he is going to be in there. But there is a video on my channel that is about the Greenie Les Paul. And he has a pretty, there's a few minutes in there. I think it's back when I was making slightly shorter videos. So I think the Greenie Les Paul video is only like maybe 7 minutes long. But, I talk about Gary quite a bit in that video and his kind of point in the story about that guitar, which is the famous burst from 59 that obviously Peter Green owned and went on to Gary Moore, went on to Kirk Hammett, things like that. So, check that out. I think that's his only appearance on my channel. Maybe a couple other little things in there. I got a lot on Fleetwood Mac. That's the thing. A lot of times with YouTube, unless you literally go on my channel and go back and try to find these videos, a lot of times people are just going to watch the new ones. They only want the new ones. And then sometimes every so often YouTube will recommend another video, or they'll, I try to use the cards thing that comes up on the screen where, if I talk about something, if I'm like, say I'm talking about Peter Frampton, well, I did a video about his guitar that was in the plane crash and that he found 30 years later. And I'll say, you can watch it right here. And I try to, put people to some of my older videos to let them know that I have done, videos on these subjects before. But, I have a lot of videos on Fleetwood Mac. I have a lot of videos on Eric Clapton. One of my favorite videos that I ever did is still one of my, probably the 5th or 6th video I ever did on this channel. I shouldn't say that. I'll explain. But when I turned into the guitar story, I should say, which was in January, February of 2020. What was I saying? The Eric Clapton, all his bands video. It's one of my favorite videos I ever did. Basically, it goes through every band that Eric Clapton was in between his time when he hit the stage, basically going all the way back to the Roosters, and then all the way through to Derek and the Dominoes, because he was in so many bands. This guy, talk about a guy who was never happy, just always joining a new band, this guy. obviously he was in the Yardbirds, but then there were these little like side ones, like the Immediate All-Stars, which was part of a record that he recorded with Jimmy Page at Jimmy Page's house. They just recorded a bunch of loose jams, but then Immediate Records, who Jimmy was signed to at the time as a session player, demanded that he take these and turn them into a real record because shit, you have stuff with Eric Clapton on it. We're going to make money off it. So he got just a few friends named Mick Jagger and Bill Wyman and Charlie Watts to come in and finish it out. And then they recorded it as part of this Immediate All-Stars record or whatever. They were able to say Eric Clapton played on it. And then there was the Eric Clapton and the Powerhouse, which had Steve Winwood in it. This was a pre-Blind Faith thing that they did. That showed up on a compilation record from 1972 that some people might even still have. It's called History of Eric Clapton. I'm going to be on the lookout for that vinyl when I go out next time looking for vinyl. I have a couple of places that I try to look for old vinyl in, and that's going to be one that I really look for because it's really awesome. It's actually a compilation record that they released. I think Polydor put it out in 72, and it had a bunch of Eric Clapton tunes going back to the Yardbirds and going through to Derek and the Dominoes. And what happened was that was actually the album that Layla became a hit off of, because when they originally released Layla in 71, it went nowhere. It didn't even chart in the UK. That's right. Layla, the album Layla did not chart in the UK. Because what I found out later in doing the Bobby Whitlock thing, and I'm actually I'm thinking about doing a video about Eric Clapton's dark years, but I did do an Eric Clapton racist video about his racist outburst, which is kind of like piggybacks off that, and there's some things in there about the early 70s that I talk about, so I kind of covered it a little bit. But at any rate, the English public didn't really like the fact that he was fronting Derek and the Dominoes. They wanted him to be the lead guitarist in a band. So Cream was cool, Blind Faith was cool, but the first album that he did with, and he credits Delaney Bramlett for helping him find his voice, literally singing voice. Because if you listen to the Eric Clapton first album and Layla, and then you go back to the stuff that he did with Cream, the stuff he did with Cream is good, but he's not projecting. He's not balls in it. You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden with the first album with Eric Clapton and with Layla, he's belting stuff out, But the British public was kind of against him. Be Real Guitar Guy. How about Sister Rosetta Tharpe? Man, you just stole my idea. No, she was one of the ones that I was talking about for Forgotten Fretmasters. That's actually, I already have here. I'll give you a little preview for you guys watching because it says there's only 15 people on. But see, what I like to do sometimes is I have this app that I make my all my thumbnails on for YouTube. And when I have an idea, I like to make a thumbnail for it so that I don't forget about it. And I don't know how well that's going to come across, but not well. Let me try something. I want to see it better. When I turn the brightness down. A little better? Not really. It says episode 11, but I'm not sure if it's going to be episode 11. But talk about a story there, man. A gospel singer who played some amazing guitars. I gotta look this up because the guitar she played in the 60s, the SG, oh my God. That's one, and I'm not a big fan of SGs, except for this one SG. Wait for it. Well, it's in the picture, but it kind of gets knocked out by it kind of gets blocked out by the thing, but I don't know how all that's going to come across. I mean, it's getting all washed out. There, that's a little better. It's just not focusing. The SG with the gold hardware, and the 3 pickups and the little vibrola there. God, that guitar is so awesome. But yeah, I mean, she, oh wow. Ex-bass player was in the States. He could really give some background on Sister Rosetta. She was his mom's first cousin. He was surprised when I brought her up about 30 years ago. Yeah, I mean, people, that's another, that you talk about a forgotten fretmaster. I mean, who talks about her anymore? And she's a, when you talk about somebody like Chuck Berry being influenced by her, and a lot of the people that would then turn the guitar into this rock machine, nobody was playing like that. I was watching the Beatles during the, I don't know if you've ever watched the Beatles Royal Command performance, like all the way through, but it's all vocals. I mean, it's hilarious. It is a Les Paul Custom. That's true. Before they changed over to, you're totally right. It is a Les Paul Custom. But the Beatles were like, they didn't use distortion at all back in the old days. They were just like, it was so tinny sounding, and even then, like, they hadn't really discovered the feedback, the distortion, things like that, because people just didn't do it, And Sister Rosetta Tharpe was a huge trailblazer, and she definitely deserves her own video. So after I do the 10th episode, she's probably going to be next, just because I really want to try to, branch out a little bit, do some people that are going to surprise everyone, and not the people who are on this live stream, but, most of my 25K subscribers will be surprised by it. So, but yes, Blues and G Music points out that she actually did have a Les Paul Custom. You say, well, huh, what? That's a SG. Well, I don't know how many people know the story, but basically what happened was the Les Pauls weren't selling. So those bursts that everybody pays, $500,000 for, worth 3 times my house and shit. And okay. That Gibson was not selling any of them because most guitar players were complaining that they were too heavy. So they went back to the drawing board and they came up with the SG body style. And in 1961, that's what they released. The problem was Les Paul hated it. So as soon as he saw it, he basically told them, I need you to take my name off it. But in 61, all of the guitars that were SGs came out with his signature on it. Most of them were at the neck heel, I believe, like right above where the pickups were. So it would say like Les Paul Custom, or it would just say Les Paul. It wasn't on the headstock at the time. So really, it was a very simple thing for them to just remove that, put out the SG as it was. And believe it or not, Gibson's didn't start making the Les Pauls again until the late 60s, because a lot of artists like Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page and Pete Townsend, and a lot of people were going back and getting these bursts. Jeff Beck, all these people were playing bursts again. And now all of a sudden people wanted to go back and get the Les Pauls. So Gibson obviously had to start making Les Pauls again, and the rest is history. But yes, there was a very short time in which that guitar that is the SG today was actually a Les Paul, until Les Paul saw it. And he was like, oh, the devil. Because I think he was a little religious. Or probably more than a little religious. Anyway, I did want this to be a short one tonight, so I'm probably going to sign off in a few minutes. I have work and everything. Joanne Kelly. I'll have to look into her. I'm assuming she got offered to join Canned Heat after Alan Wilson passed. Johnny Winter. Yeah, he's another one. He's another one that's on the list. I have a list that just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's going to keep me busy for a real long time, guys. So hopefully you're okay with me being around for a long time making these videos. And as long as people keep watching them, and as long as, the series keeps doing well, I'm going to be making them. But Johnny Winter is on the list for sure. The albinos, man. Crazy. One thing that Topher says, invest in external hard drives. I have a 1 terabyte SSD, and this computer I'm actually recording on is going on 10 years old. It's the 2012 MacBook Pro. I have the camera in this thing is so terrible. I actually had to get an external one, but basically I upgraded everything on it, like a 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it has a 1 terabyte SSD, and I put a new battery in it, and that's pretty much all you can upgrade on it. At least I think so, because it was starting to run like crap. But yeah, so I'm definitely due for an upgrade soon. Hopefully, if you guys can help out with the views and the clicks, I can save up for one. But yeah, it's external hard drives are definitely in my future too, Topher, for sure. Yeah, because I do want to save everything. But the thing is, like, once you upload it to YouTube, and I know that there have been situations where people have lost their channels, but that's very few and far between. And I feel like I've done quite a bit security-wise to try to, make sure that nobody's going to hack me or anything like that, even though I know it's still possible. But yeah, it's I try to free up space by actually deleting the masters once I'm done, because once I feel like it's uploaded, it's on YouTube already, and like, what do I need it for? But I guess I probably should save everything in case I do have to re-upload everything, which would be a nightmare. But I certainly wouldn't want to lose the channel that way. So Be Real Guitar Guy says, really enjoy your channel. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you, sir. I try. Like I said, it's one of those things. It's kind of like a hobby right now. It's what I do kind of in my spare time. So unfortunately, the spare time becomes less and less, especially considering that there's another thing I'm going to be adding to my repertoire soon, which is going to be serious physical exertion, which is something that I need to I definitely need to get off my ass more, even though my job is very physical. So it has probably kept me from, really being, but I eat like terrible, and I have to really change my lifestyle in a lot of different ways. And so I'm going to be working on that too. Hopefully you see some results with that, and I look a little less moon-faced in the next few weeks and months. But yeah, so it's just a matter of like trying to find out what's most important to you and doing it. And right now, this channel is really important to me. It's important that I continue to grow it, even if it's at a slow pace. And, I uploaded a slow pace, upwards and onwards. As long as it's going in the right direction, it's good, and it's fun, and it's rewarding, because 98% of the people who watch my videos enjoy them, as far as what the likes and dislikes say right now. And I'm sure there's many other people that don't hit the like button or don't subscribe because they don't remember to, or they just, it's not something that they do. They don't like to be subscribed to people and everything, and I get that. But yeah, I try to keep it real for you guys, and I try to do the best and most honest work that I can. And if I'm wrong, I admit it, and I put it in the description, or I talk about it on the comment section, and I admit when I'm wrong, and I will never change. So hopefully you guys can be with me as this channel grows, and we march on to someday 50,000 subscribers, and maybe even, God forbid, double that. Who knows? We'll see what happens, right? But yeah, so I appreciate everybody's support, and we're going to be signing off because I got to get ready for bed and go to work tomorrow in the morning. And yeah, so like I said, Friday night shouldn't be any problem with me. Tomorrow I'll probably come home and finish her up, upload it, get it ready to go. 7 p.m. Friday night, it'll be live. So we're going to be, thank you, Gary, Cubs 5, Phil 0. Listen, real quick, regarding sports, the last couple of years with the news cycle being what it was, I kind of fell out of, and then obviously with the pandemic not being too many sports, I kind of realized sports' place in my life. And here's my problem with sports today. I can barely watch athletes anymore. And this is just kind of like this is totally off topic. I know, but like you look at the Sixers, if anybody knows about this Philadelphia 76ers, this playoff run, they have a player on the Sixers named Ben Simmons. And this man refuses to shoot the basketball. And not only does he refuse to shoot the basketball, but then he gets snippy with the reporters when they ask him questions about it. And he acts like he's the greatest basketball player on earth. He's at Wimbledon with his new girlfriend in England right now. He's buying, multi-million-dollar houses right now. Instead of immediately after being washed out in the second round of the playoffs, he just goes out on vacation basically. And instead of, showing the gumption to want to go out and be, a player the way that, Kobe Bryant or the way Larry Bird or Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan, these guys worked. They worked every damn day on their game while they were athletes. They didn't take no days off. They literally, every part of their being was being an athlete. And today's athletes are just whiny babies who basically have come up from a high school career and they were touted as gods. These are kids that if they're good at their really good, I'm talking about pro level, by the time they're in high school, they're probably the best player in their city, right? So everybody's talking about them. They're just told how good they are. They got colleges falling all over, basically college coaches coming in and fawning over them and making them feel like they're this greatest thing ever. So when they get to the pros, they have no work ethic. They don't have any reason to do it because then they're just handed millions of dollars for nothing before they even play a game. So just the way that pro sports has kind of gone over the last few years, if I miss a Phillies, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, if I'd missed a Phillies game, I would have been on my phone with the ESPN trackers and stuff like that, trying to figure out what's going on. Phillies and Flyers, basically. It's the way I was with them. Eagles, yeah, because they only play once a week. You can easily watch them. But, but it's just so hard to get into these athletes anymore. It really is. I mean, it's just incredible. And that has turned me off of sports a little bit. So that's, one of the reasons why, the Phillies are on right now, Gary. I'm here live streaming with you guys. I could care less, even though I got a Phillies flag and all that stuff. I don't care. So that's kind of how I feel about pro sports these days. When an athlete comes along, like a Mike Trout, trying to think of anybody in football. The kid from Kansas City, Mahomes. Oh, what a surprise. He's got an old school pitcher father. Mahomes seems to have a very good work ethic. He'll play hurt. He'll play through pain. He'll play after getting smashed to the ground. People like that. I'll watch them. Those guys I'll watch, But these guys that just bitch and complain to the refs every 5 minutes, even Joel Embiid on the Sixers, just every 5 minutes, they're just bitching and complaining and, oh my God, and that was a strike, and oh my God, he did not. Oh, blah. It's just like, oh, guys, and it's just because people have been telling them they're so good for so long. So pro sports is kind of like, So thanks for sending me off on that, Gary. But anyway, I'm really going to sign off this time. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out a little bit. And we will see you at the next stream, whenever that will be. But look for the video this weekend. Bobby Whitlock, In the Eye of the Storm, coming to you on Friday night. So thanks a lot, and we will see you next time.